Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the show on this Friday, the 4th of June, 2021. Thank you for tuning in. Glad to have you guys here. And my very first show I did, I think, years and years ago on this channel. I was talking about the vulnerabilities of, I could see the system moving wholeheartedly, head first into doing everything online. You know, everybody used to use cash, you'd be in line at the checkout, the grocery store or whatever, and they'd all have cash in front of you. But then all of a sudden, boom, it just come in, boom. Everybody was starting to use these debit cards and credit cards, and nobody's using cash anymore, And everybody started using the internet for everything. They threw out all their old equipment that they had. Things like cash registers, and then they put in new cash registers with a scanner in it and everything that's connected to the internet and everything. Same way with all these businesses and everything that runs, went whole hog in the internet, hooking everything that they run, like farms and stuff, and everything from meat production to your gas station to everything, just going all hog into it. And I saw this happen, and I did many shows on my channel about how there's no redundant systems in place and how we're just rushing head first into this. And I was thinking to myself, hey, what if we get something like the Carrington event that occurred back in the 1800s when we had a big giant X-class solar flare hit the Earth, and those guys that were back then, they didn't have very many electronic things, but they did have the telegraph lines. And that's how we know about the Carrington event. It's just basically the telegraph operators, some of them got hit with a jolt of electricity and it fried their lines. It was so powerful that it melted the telegraph lines. Do you have any idea what that would do to our electronics on the Earth today if we got hit with a Carrington event? And so this is what I was thinking in the back of my mind. Gee, what if we get hit with a Carrington event? We've went whole hog into this internet thing, and it all gets wiped out, and then we can't function as a society, and we all basically starve to death. And I was like worried about this, and I did show after show after show on this, but I never saw this coming. What's happening now? This is taking me out of the left field. But I have to process this information rather quickly and think about it. I was watching a show about it last night, on one of the big major network channels and stuff, and they were talking about this. But they also talked about cryptocurrency, how that cryptocurrency is used most in these malicious attacks that are happening recently, as ransomware. Well, I'm going to tell you guys what. If this continues, and if it grows worse, and we don't know where it might happen next, cryptocurrency is going to come head first into the spotlight on this. And so we're going to have to wait and see if this continues, or if this is something that might abate and stop these cyber things. But you keep your eye on this, and think about your cryptocurrencies if you have them. Because if this escalates, cryptocurrencies could they might turn on cryptocurrencies and say, hey, we can't have this anymore. So just keep that in the back of your mind, guys, if you're holding cryptocurrencies portfolios. Ultimately, I think cryptocurrency is going to win the world in the end. I can't see it going in any other direction except cryptography in one form or another. It might not actually be blockchain technology. There might be some new form of cryptographic technology, but they all work in the same general way, that they store information on a chain of one or a graph. You know, there's more than one way to store information of transactions. You know, the blockchain is the older technology of storing transactions. You know, uh, some of these new coins work off of something called a graph technology, which is faster and more effective. But it's still cryptography. And this is going to rule in the next 100 years as money, world money. For the main reason is that they can do smart there's a long list of reasons, and you guys probably know uh, why this is going to take over and how this functions on the internet. And it's going to take over rather quickly in the next 10 years. But could go through a bump in the road between now and then, you know, as they sort all this out. See, we were living in a stable system back when we used tangible money. I'm going to call it tangible because you held your money in your hand. You kept your money in your wallet. That was a stable system. And now what we've done is we've moved into something different where money is online. It's non-tangible money. But the system isn't fully secure and stable yet. I believe that in the future it will become stable and will be a stable system again. We're not going to go back. It's too late to cry over spilt milk and wish for the 1980s, 1970s again, back when our money was stable and we kept it in our wallet. That ain't going to happen. We're moving into this, whether we like it or not. We're going through this period of instability on the way to stability again, because they will secure these networks ultimately. And money will become secure again. But it's going to be money that you don't hold in your wallet anymore. It's going to be money that's associated with you through numbers and through cryptography. That's our future. Let's get into the markets. Let's open up the charts right here and take a look at what's going on. We're looking now at what's happening with silver price and gold price. This is gold. It's up $23.10 today. Now, can I say one-day fire sale? That's what we had yesterday for gold and silver. For you guys that took advantage of it, good for you. You know, for you guys that didn't get in on it, well, you know, but it's over today. You know, the price has gone back up again. So silver, gold is at $18.93, getting ready to cross the $1,900 threshold. And what's silver doing? Silver, I think, is lagging behind a little bit today. It's went up though. It's getting up $27.79 today. It's still cheap. Silver's the biggest bargain in the whole financial system, especially physical if you can attain it. Even with the premiums, it's the biggest bargain in the world's financial system. Silver is the place really to be, you know, because there's very limited supplies of silver on Earth, and they need it. They need it. They cannot do without it. You know, I'm going to tell you, there's actually more above ground, you know. There's actually more gold than there is silver. They got vaults and vaults full of gold. They don't use it for anything really much. Make a little bit of jewelry out of it and stuff, but for the most part, they mine it out of the ground. They just keep storing it away year after year. More and more blocks and more vaults. Silver's a different... Silver, they're mining it, scouring it out of the ground everywhere, and they're using it. They're consuming it. It's going to become a very scarce resource very soon. The U.S. Geological Survey did a survey on silver, and they talked about it, and this was years and years ago, and they said it's the first element on the periodical chart that's going to become extinct. Well, when they mean extinct, they don't mean completely extinct, but it's going to become like you know, when an animal becomes down to only a few of them left, and you have to make it a protected species. That's what silver's going to be, guys. And it's not that far away. At the rate they're scouring it out of the ground, it's going to cost more and more. The silver ore grades are going to drop more and more, and the price is going to go up higher and higher on silver. Take a look at cryptocurrency today. We're looking at $36,780 for cryptos. And the Bitcoin price is going along. They're fairly stable right now, the cryptocurrencies. In an unstable world. Okay, now let's take a look at the stock market today. It's up 157 points on the day so far, 34,734 for the stock market for the Dow Jones. Crude oil today is at $69.39, and it's almost up to that $70 mark. Now, when we pierce through the $70 mark and we get up above $70, then we're going to be on our way to $80 for crude. Okay, so crude's creeping up. It's getting up near 70 now. Let's take a look at the MOVE index today. It's down at 1.25% at 53.96. Now, the MOVE index, this is a descending chart over the last month. It's been slowly descending. Had a little bounce up yesterday, but it's still in that descending pattern. Let's take a look at bonds and rates today, and we see bond yields dropping. You know what? The Fed's keeping up to their word. They said that they were not going to allow these yields to rise too high, and that they were going to keep things under control in the bond markets and stuff, And a while ago they said that, and they've kept their word. Bonds seemed to suddenly stop. The U.S. 10-year seemed to go up to around 1.65. It just stopped. Right now it's at 1.57. It was heading toward 2% back then when they come on, Chairman Powell, and he talked about his renewed interest in I can't remember his words exactly, but he basically said that we're going to keep things under control. And they have. Ever since he made that statement, these bond yields have been going nowhere. Just bouncing up and down between 150, 160 on the 10-year. 157.4 today. It's down 5.3 basis points. Now, that's a big drop today in those yields. Let's take a look now. And I remember what I told you guys when Chairman Powell came out and said that. I remember what I told you guys. I said, never underestimate the power of the Fed and what they can do to control yields. And, I'm going to tell you guys, they're not going to let these bond yields skyrocket. They're not. It's not going to happen. I know you listen to a lot of economic forecasters out there and say that inflation's coming and yields are going to shoot up. And we're going to see higher interest rates. And things like your credit cards and stuff. If you got a loan, at a fixed rate, or you got a loan at a floating rate, you'd have to big worry because no, there's a time in the period coming in the very near future here where you should get your credit cards paid off because the dollar's going to be depreciating rather rapidly, and then we're getting ready to go into that transition period. So there's a time coming in the next year or two where it's a perfect time to get in. It might hurt a little bit to get your credit cards paid off, but it's probably for the best, because when we hit that transition period, I'm worried that they're just going to shift things over from the banks will just shift things from the old dollar to the new whatever, maybe a new Fed dollar or something like that they might come out with. You don't exactly know what they got up their sleeve, and it's a good time while the dollar's been devalued to get your credit cards paid off and get your bills paid off if you can, with these depreciated, worthless dollars. Get everything squared away for yourself, as best you can to prepare for what's coming in the future with a new digital dollar of some sort or another, which is probably going to be what happens at the end of the reset. Heck, we might have two hyperinflations. We might have a hyperinflation of the dollar we have now, and they might move into some sort of digital dollar Fed coin or whatever you call it, it might undergo a very slow hyperinflation too. They're only going to stop this process when they go back to hard money. When they back the currencies with something of value. Because, I mean, if they just if we go through this process of a hyperinflation, at the end of the hyperinflation, they go ahead and bring out some new type of fiat currency that's not backed by anything. It doesn't matter if it's a digital. What's it? You know, if it's because the dollar's already digital. Let's face it. And say they go over to some new cryptography dollar. You know, that whether it's blockchain or hashgraph technology or goodness knows what, but say they go with the latest and greatest technology and it works great and everything, but they don't back it by anything and they make as many units as they want. Well, that's the same old thing we're facing now. And so the same thing will happen all over again. They're not going to get out of this. They're not going to escape this until they back the dollar with something of value. In other words, they're going to be forced to go back to hard money. They're going to have to use something as a base unit of hard money behind the system. Very probably gold and silver. Or it could be something like Bitcoin. But, I mean, they're going to have something behind the money. Now, the money's worthless. We're going through this. It's a phase we're going through. Maybe it'll last 10 years, 5 years, 20 years, however long it lasts before we actually go back to hard money again. But eventually, we're going to have to go back to hard money. It's just the way it is. The dollar index today, 90.14. We took a drop in the dollar index. The dollar weakened a little bit, but it's not back into the 80s like it was a few days ago. It's still up above 90. Thank you guys for listening to my show. Like and subscribe. And we'll catch you guys in the very next episode. Bye-bye.